Now, let me give the floor to our Cardinal Prefect, chosen by the Holy Father as Prefect of the Dicastery for Laity, Family and Life back in 2016. Cardinal Farrell worked many years in Mexico in the pastoral work in parishes both in Mexico and the United States until 2001, when he was appointed by John Paul II, Auxiliary Bishop of Washington, at the beginning of 2002. In 2007, Pope Benedict called him to another diocese when the Holy Father called him to lead us at our dicastery. Now, Cardinal Farrell, you have the floor.
Thank you. I believe that we can hear each other now. My dear brother bishops, sisters and brothers, I want to add my own words of welcome and thank you to each and every one of you who are present here in this webinar, which will take place over the next 4 days and is set in the context of this very special year that our Holy Father Pope Francis has decided to dedicate to Amoris Laetitia 5 years after its publication. We here in this dicastery in Rome, and each and every one of you, 70 Episcopal conferences are represented here today by you. Innumerable movements, ecclesial movements, and associations that work in family ministry have welcomed this invitation of our Holy Father to take another look, a more profound look, and to develop our thought and our practice in the promotion of Amoris Laetitia. In the first pages of this apostolic exhortation, Pope Francis gives us some fundamental direction. As he writes, I do not recommend a rushed reading of the text. The greatest benefit for families and those engaged in the family apostolate will come if each part is read patiently and carefully. The question before us today is to ask ourselves, to what degree the pastoral approach outlined by 2 synods has already been patiently and carefully implemented, and what we can do to ensure that this work is taken up and carried forward on all levels and in all dioceses throughout the whole world. The pastoral application of Amoris Laetitia is particularly close to our Holy Father's heart, and he is intent on hearing what each and every one of you have to say regarding the implementation in your part of the world. It is most important that as this exercise in synodality continues, that we hear from each and every one of you. The challenges facing married couples today and families in general throughout the world is certainly one that demands our attention. We cannot remain indifferent to the situation if we are to be a church that opens its arms to all people in need. We are called upon by Jesus Christ himself to help those in need, to care for those who need our assistance at every moment. At this time in the life of our church, we must pay particular attention to that one nucleus that is essential to the life of our society and to the life of the church. That is marriage and the family as we understand it. On various occasions, the Holy Father has asked for information regarding the practical and pastoral application of Amoris Laetitia in the many different parts of the world. In past ad limina visits with bishops, as well as in meetings that we have hosted online in this time of pandemic, they have afforded us many opportunities for profitable and constructive dialogue on family and pastoral care. We have now come to realize the importance of taking stock of where we are today. It is precisely the challenges, obstacles, favorable aspects, and needs which in this time of pandemic have become all the more evident that have generated the title of this meeting. Where are we with Amoris Laetitia? Taking stock together does not mean a mere statistical analysis or ecclesial survey. We must go much deeper in search of common courses of action. In October of 2017, our Holy Father Pope Francis visited the Dicastery for Laity, Family and Life and spoke with us about the application of Amoris Laetitia, saying that Amoris Laetitia must be read together from the first to the last chapter, without cherry picking those sections which we consider easier to implement from those that are more challenging. Pope Francis continued explaining, if you ask me what is at the heart of the document, the part that inspires its whole spirit, I will tell you that it is chapter 4, which speaks about love in marriage. But the whole document is valid, and we should not find ourselves cherry picking one section over another. The apostolic exhortation should therefore be read as an integral whole. It should be understood as a broad discourse on the family, but at the same time as a detailed account of many aspects of family life into which the Holy Father has delved in a courageous and detailed way, inviting us to do the same in the way we carry out our pastoral work with families. If we look back to the most important church document of recent decades, we notice how long periods of time were needed to fully assimilate them. These long periods of time were characterized by cyclical, repetitive, and dynamic, and certain dynamics. The dynamic can be broadly described as follows. In the first phase, one sees a generalized interest for the text in question, and even a certain moment of hesitation and confusion and discussion if the document introduces particularly relevant or previously unseen content. This phase is accompanied by a period of debate in which numerous intellectual positions and ideological interpretations regarding the text are expressed. This phase leaves little room for the concrete application of the text. It is the most in which the various theological and pastoral sensibilities and schools of thought come to light. those sentiments that characterize the ecclesial purview of each historical juncture. This early phase is basically made up of raw first reactions. The next phase is one of a more peaceful examination of the document, during which there is a return to the single sections and specific themes of the document, which are deemed to be of most interest. This phase of more profound study with respect to the first moments in which everybody says their piece normally involves a smaller number of persons, generally specialists of the material that is treated in the document. Gradually, the text no longer to be the center of media attraction, falling into obscurity for some, but becoming a fruitful source of inspiration for others. For those who find such inspiration, the document eventually begins to translate into concrete pastoral experience. These kinds of initiatives, born of a document, might be true pastoral experiments at the outset, but they are nonetheless important because they prove themselves to be effective. They are gradually shared and diffused, helping to introduce the document into the ordinary life of the church. In this way, the document finally reaches the many, who can at this point draw the spiritual benefit from the document initially intended, even without being aware of the source from which these benefits originated, namely the document in question. This dynamic more or less describes the reception of Amoris Laetitia, of which the initial phase of debate and raw initial first reactions were particularly lively due to the controversies that arose in reaction to Chapter 8. After this polemic stage, there were innumerable insights offered by academics and specialists, pastors, and clergymen who were able to conduct in-depth reflections with more restraint and objectivity that could have been expected of the initial phase. 5 years from its publication, we now find ourselves in the stage in which, according to the directions of Pope Francis, we can and must reread the document as a whole, and cherishing all of its precise content and trying to translate it into concrete pastoral practices. In this manner, the document will filter down to the whole church, such that many more families are able to benefit from its intended spiritual benefit. We understand, and I am sure that you also do, that families who have had the opportunity to read even small sections of Amoris Laetitia have been struck by it in many positive ways, from the concreteness of its suggestions to the closeness to the tangible situations of family life that it expresses. Our webinar this week should be seen within the synodal process as a sign of the church coming together to ensure that the family is given a central role within the missionary outreach of every institution or parish community within the church. The church is at the service of the family to work with it, to hope in its great potential, in the certainty that the church is good for the family and the family is good for the church. The programmatic lines of the webinar should hopefully promote, on the one hand, the pastoral application of Amoris Laetitia, and on the other, a general renewal of family pastoral care. These programmatic lines are indicated by the titles of the sessions of our webinar: the preparation of couples for marriage, the formation of companions, the education of children, marital spirituality, family mission and fragility in the family environment. We are confident that putting the suggestions of Amoris Laetitia into practice in each of these domains will be of great benefits to many families that are present in our local churches. I thank you for your participation. I thank you for the work that you will put into this webinar, and I wish you all the best in the future of our pastoral ministry for the good of families, the good of marriage, and the good of the whole church. Thank you, and God bless you all.